Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salamu rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Catherine Jones, emotional and spiritual resilience mentor and coach and founder of the Back to the Fitra Mentoring Academy with We Are All Okay Wednesday, and our topic or theme today is when people hurt us, how we can move past that. Even if they don't change or they don't apologize or the situation doesn't get resolved, or we don't see justice, subhanallah, in the circumstance. It often feels really difficult for us to see how it's even possible for us to move past how we've been hurt if the other person doesn't change or if the situation doesn't change. So I want to show the possibility in that and really open up the opportunity, I guess, for more people to experience peace in their heart and the ability to move forward even though they've been through traumatic or hurtful experiences. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Larissa, good to have you here. So let's start from the beginning. So someone says or does something hurtful, maybe insulting us, putting us down. Maybe it's a consistent digging at us. And so the experience we're having is an experience of feeling hurt, feeling put down, unhappy, lots of different feelings, frustrated, angry. Like, there's lots of different feelings can come up in that situation. So how do we move past that? What do we do about it? So that's actually two separate questions. The one question is around our feelings. The other question is, what do we do about it? And the first thing that I like to share with my clients is we don't do anything till the feelings are sorted out, because anything that we do about the situation when it comes from the place of having big feelings is we're likely to make a mess of it. We're not likely to actually act in a wise manner. So when we're having big feelings about it, that's not the time to do something. We need to wait till the feelings settle, and then if there's something to do, our natural wisdom will kick in and we will know what to do and how to do it, and we'll do it in a wise manner. So let's look at the feelings though, because then it feels like, well, how will I get those feelings to go past? Our head is buzzing with what happened over and over and over again, and every time that's repeating in our head, we're repeating the hurt feelings or feeling unhappy about what happened. So how is it possible then for the feelings to resolve so we can act wisely and do something about the situation, or say something to the person, set a limit or whatever is required? So our feelings are always coming from our thought in the moment. We're always experiencing everything through thought. And that's why sometimes, perhaps, if you have a relationship in your life where someone is often saying hurtful things constantly, why some days you just don't even bother with it or pay attention to it, and other days it feels really hurtful, and it might be the same thing that is said on both days, but you're experiencing it differently because in that moment you're thinking about it differently. And so when we can notice that we can experience the same thing in different ways, what someone says or does in different ways, and see that is our thought, it opens up immense possibility for experiencing the situation or the memory of the situation that's happened in different ways, simply by thinking about it in different ways. So let's pick a scenario. Okay, I'm actually going to go with a real live scenario that happened on Eid for me. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. So we're all had a challenging Eid because it wasn't the usual Eid. So I was doing whatever I could to figure out a way to make it feel like a special day for the family. As I'm sure most moms were trying to do, it tends to be our role, isn't it, to build the festive culture in the house, in the absence of it, right? So I had a plan. I worked out the plan with my younger kids. I told my older kids what the plan was, and the plan where all the family was coming together was just a meal at the end of the day. It was difficult to get everybody together earlier in the day, so we had other things planned for then, but the plan was dinner together at the end of the day. We did our usual cake. Well, actually, my daughter did it. We usually make a very sickly cake with lots of sweets and lollies and everything on it, and so we had that. That would be, and so the idea was to have this beautiful dinner and cake as a family. Then my stepsons, who somehow decided to have a conscience that day, decided that maybe it would be great if everybody went to see their dad, my ex, the father of my older 3 children. And so they rounded up my 2 older boys, and the 4 boys, my 2 stepsons and my 2 older sons, were at their dad's house. My daughter and I were about to do the cooking together because our plan was that we would cook together, and it was her dish that she wanted to make. And we were about to do that, and she gets a phone call from her father, which was absolutely laden with emotional blackmail about why wasn't she there? Her brothers were there, all that kind of like you're a bad daughter kind of emotional blackmail, which is so unfair. So that was the first thing that had me getting really angry, was how dare he emotionally blackmail her to go over there when she is the one child who has tried really hard to maintain a relationship with him, to the that she's been visiting him, that she went there for iftar, quite a number of times through Ramadan, and her brothers, all 4 of them, avoid their dad. And so how dare he make her out to be the bad girl because she wasn't there, when she's the one that does everything for him. So that really got under my skin, and I had lots of thinking about that. And then as the afternoon progressed, what became very evident was that my kids weren't going to be home for the dinner that we had prepared. So not only now was I cooking it when it was my daughter was going to cook it, and it was like that was her thing she wanted to do for Eid. So now I was, doing all the cooking on my own. Now they weren't even going to show up for the dinner in time because, they got held up there. So as it turned out, on Eid day, I actually didn't have one single minute where I had all of my 5 kids together. And whereas their father had several hours, and there was this massive volcano inside of me that I had so much thinking about that, because I'm the one who's brought them up on my own, paid for everything on my own, worn all the emotional turmoil that he has created in them and listened through that. I'm the one who drives my daughter over to see him because he doesn't drive, and picks her up, and then deals with all the tears afterwards when he's said or done something that's horrible, so there was so much resentment built up. And so I started to want to write, because it was my eldest stepson who had instigated the plan, and it was like, I know they weren't doing that really for their dad. They were doing that to ease their guilt at the fact that they avoid him all the time, right? And then roping my kids in too, and the other thing that came into my mind was I didn't even get an Eid Mubarak from my stepsons, and yet when they were living with their father, I was the one that paid everything, and I was the one that did everything for them. And even when after we were divorced, I still was paying their schooling and various other things for them, and yet they can't even afford me an Eid Mubarak, or even ring me to say, is it okay if I steal your kids away? I hope you don't have any plans, or how can we work around your plans? Nothing. And I just felt so like it was just not fair. That was the thing that's going around in my head. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. And I was fuming. Now, even though I understand feelings come from thought in the moment, I got really caught up in that for a while. However, that sort of thing in the past would have lasted days and weeks. And one of the things I really felt like doing during that time when I felt angry was writing to my eldest stepson and going, how unfair it is and how dare you, and all the things I've done for you, and all that kind of thing was coming up. I even wrote a message, but I never sent it. Now, understanding that feelings come from thought in the moment, you know, the feelings were able to pass. And while I wasn't my usual jolly self, you know, I was able to put that hurtfulness aside and, you know, be there for the dinner with those kids that were around, my younger ones, alhamdulillah. But it wasn't fair on them either that I got so caught up in those thoughts, because they wanted to have a nice special evening, and it was disappointing for them that their siblings weren't there. And instead of me being there to jolly them up, I was this, you know, angry, frustrated mother. So not much fun at all, subhanAllah. So alhamdulillah, I understand that as our thoughts pass, our feelings pass, and so I didn't fight it, and I didn't really have to do anything. The feelings settled, and then the following day, this is where sometimes there is still something to do. The following day, when I felt very calm and neutral about it, something inside me said, I have to set a limit around this. This wasn't okay. And so I wrote to my eldest stepson, but in a much more pleasant way, saying, in future, it would be really nice if you could just communicate with me so we make sure that, you know, everything works out. And so I set the limit in a beautiful, calm way. I haven't heard from him because, of course, he's been so manipulated by his father all his life that the filter that he sees messages like that through is one of, oh, I'm just trying to make him feel bad or something like that. So I didn't expect him to reply. And what I expect to happen is not that he will understand where I'm coming from and therefore next time ring me in an open way about it. It will most likely be a fairly kind of condescending is probably the right word, condescending or patronizing type of message saying, I just want to make sure it's okay with you if I have the kids on such and such or something like that. It'll be along those lines because, you know, that's how they most likely have taken what I've said. They may not, and Allah knows best, but it doesn't matter to me that at all. And that's where we get caught up, is we get caught up in thinking that there has to be a resolution where everyone gets it, that they have to get my point or understand me, or that I'm not going to be okay unless they say sorry. Because it was very inconsiderate. You know, they totally sabotaged my Eid. And I know that it wasn't a genuine action on their part, that they wanted to do something to please their father. I know where it came from because I know these boys very well. I brought them up, you know, especially through their teen years, is that it came from a sense of guilt. And so that's what ticked me off even more, was like, you know, this wasn't even a genuine effort. This was just to kind of make themselves feel better. And in the process, they completely sabotaged my day. So what was very interesting about that whole thing was being able to be a witness of it and see it unfold and notice the oppression of my daughter, or the emotional blackmail of my daughter, notice the thoughts and the feelings and everyone's behavior and through that whole experience, and, you know, learn from that, get insight from that, but not carry it on. And that's what life is about. We're going to have experiences where we have big feelings around something. And we're not meant to actually hang on to that hurt. We're not meant to hang on to it and keep replaying it and re-hurting ourselves. We're meant to look at it, reflect on it, see the lessons in it, do something if something is required. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, you know what, this is not a battle to fight. but I'll know next time how I want to handle it. Or so there's various outcomes, but we don't need the other person to apologize or change, or for the situation to change for us to be okay. We're going to be okay as soon as we start seeing things from a different perspective, or start understanding things in a way where we're not kicking up that hurt every time we think about it. So for me, I look at that now and it's like, okay, one lesson I learned was I can see that my daughter, who just turned 17, is still very vulnerable to manipulation from men. And it's not surprising, because, that's what she's grown up with. And that there's some work to be done there to try and help her and educate her before she gets married, because I don't want her to end up in a marriage where it's unfair, it's unjust. And so that was a lesson. And so instead of stressing and fearing and worrying about that, I'm now thoughtfully looking at it and going, how can I impart that message on her? How can I educate her around that so that she doesn't end up in that situation? With my stepsons and those sorts of things in the future, if something like that comes up, what I'll do is I'll nip it in the bud, and I'll just send them a message and go, I gather you've gathered my tribe. I need them back by such and such a time, or I need this or I need that. And I won't get all emotional about it. I will just say it how it is, and I'll take charge of it. And so these are the kinds of lessons I've learned. So it is resolved. There's nothing left to do. I don't need to hear back from my stepson to see whether he understood me or not. He probably doesn't. And perhaps even seeing that he doesn't get it, I'll end up having other thoughts and feelings about it. So perhaps it's better not to know. But we get caught up with thinking that the other person has to change, they have to apologize, that there has to be a resolution in order for us to be okay. And I want this message in what I share today to be about that's not true. You can be okay even if they never change, even if the situation is never resolved, even if there's never an apology. Because our job is to learn the lessons from it and be, as the Prophet ﷺ said, the true believer doesn't stick their hand in the snake hole twice. It's like, learn the lessons from it, don't stick our hand in that snake hole again, right? Figure out how we're going to be moving forward. So that's why I'm really passionate about teaching about the Inside Out paradigm, because it's through this understanding that has helped me really be able to do that, be able to analyze it, be able to be okay despite despite other people not changing. And one of the things I did over Ramadan, and I've extended it this week, is, and I think it's this one. Oh, here it is. It's this. I'm going to change the color of that. I'm going to put it down here and change the color of it because you can't read it. Let's make that white. And we'll just take this out here. All right, this might make it easier to read. There we go. I'll put it down there on my hijab so you can read it. So there was a Ramadan special that I put together for my program, Peaceful Hearts. And in the Peaceful Hearts program, I unpack step by step exactly how you can understand your emotional responses and your experience of life, so that you too can not be hurt, or even though you might feel hurt for a moment, you can recover quickly from these situations, so that you can be calm, that you can be wiser, confident to say something. Like I was confident to send a message to my stepson. My daughter didn't want me to. She said, oh, but he might feel this, I might feel that. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to say that wasn't okay, and next time do this. And so I did that. That was my responsibility, and I didn't have to overthink it, or think carefully how to word the words, because when you're in that calm space, it just becomes natural to do that. So I want to invite you to join the Peaceful Hearts program, so that you can also be able to navigate these situations like I just explained to you. I see our relationships about navigation and negotiation. Sometimes it's like, it's not worth that's not a fight to battle to fight to battle. Oh, well, you know what I mean. A battle to fight, that's it. So we navigate the situation. Other times it's like, no, this is a battle to fight. And so we negotiate our way through the situation. And we need to have the confidence to do that, not be worrying, oh, this person might feel this, or that person might feel that, or I might hurt their feelings, or they hurt my feelings, and all that thinking that gets in the way of us having proper communication in relationships. Being able to set limits when somebody does something that's not okay, we need to be able to confidently say to them, do you know what? That wasn't okay. It wasn't okay for these reasons, and next time this would be better. And when we say it like that, if they have upset feelings around that, that's because they have their own thinking around it. Nobody has abused anyone's rights by saying, hey, that wasn't okay. But sometimes that kind of person will say, oh, you're abusing me. When you say that, it's like, how am I abusing you? I'm just saying that wasn't okay for me. You know, and we have the right to say that, but we feel speechless. So having the confidence to say what you need to say around those situations, set limits, hold limits around people's behavior towards you, and being able to recover quickly from these sorts of situations. All of that you can get from understanding the Inside Out paradigm. So the Peaceful Hearts program, heartsfindrest.com, you can check out the details there. This is only $47 for about another 2 days. You'll see a timer on the sheet when you get there. It'll tell you how much time is left. I think it's about 2 days. After that, it will never be $47 again, because it is a 10-week program. Commercially, the value is probably in the thousands. I've done programs like this where I've been charged $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And I've paid it because I wanted, I wanted to change. I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to experience life in a better way, which I do now, alhamdulillah. So I don't regret that at all. But I put it at $47 because I want our ummah to have this information. I want them to have this knowledge. So the value, don't judge the program by the price. Just accept the gift of the price being only $47. I won't be selling it at this again. It's underselling it by a long shot. It's 95% off, because the retail value that I've put on it is $999, and even that is still underpriced. So $47 is like 95% off. heartsfindrest.com. You won't regret it. If you don't like it, if it's not for you, just let me know. In the first 14 days, I'll refund it, because by the first 14 days, you should be having you would have had access to at least 2 modules, maybe even 3 modules. You might have even got the 3rd module by then. So you would have a good idea if this is for you or not. If it's not for you, no worries. I'll refund it. So there's nothing to risk. Alhamdulillah. Oh, look, Amy's here. Amy's joined. Alhamdulillah. So she's saying yes, alhamdulillah. I have a question here. What about when you tell people that what they said or did wasn't okay for us, and they put that back on you as a lack of respect for them? I've seen older generations doing that. Yeah, really good question. I'm just going to pop that up on the screen here so people can see the question as I answer it. Let me just get rid of that. See, it's fun. I can move things all over the screen while I'm talking to you. Right here, this is a really good question, because I get asked this all the time. As I said, if they have feelings about it, that's coming from their own thought. And you're not responsible for that, because each and every one of us are experiencing our life through our own thought. If you saying to someone it wasn't okay what they did to you is a disrespect to them, that's their thinking, because it's not. If you do it, well, it depends how you do it. If you do it in a respectful manner, if you say it in a respectful way without yelling or being emotional or anything, you just say, you know what, that really wasn't okay. I felt hurt when you did that. Or it's not like blame. It's just saying, that wasn't okay to me. You know, I didn't like that. If they try to turn that back on you, that's a fault in their thinking. It's a confusion on their part because they don't understand that their feelings come from their thought in the moment. And it means that they have some false thinking about what respect is. In their mind, what they're saying is respect means that I can do whatever I want to do and you have to just suck it up. And that's not respect. That's not respect. That's oppression. And there's nothing in Islam that says that that an older person has the right to oppress a younger person at all, ever. You know, you look at the Prophet ﷺ's behavior to everybody. He was even respectful to the Jews, to anybody who wasn't even Muslim. You know, his idea of respect was for everybody, to children, to elderly. This idea that there's a greater respect to the people who are older that allows the older people to disrespect the younger people and it's okay, that is not Islam. That is some wacky-do confused thinking. I put it that way because I want to make light of it, subhanAllah. But a very good question to ask that. You are not responsible for the feelings of another person if you have pleased Allah in your behavior towards them. This is the key bit. If your behavior, the way you have spoken to that person is pleasing to Allah, so that means we've obviously shown the right manners and everything, then, and they have feelings about it, then it's their problem, not yours. You have done the right thing. The only question you can ask yourself is, is it a topic I should have brought up or not? That's the only question you can ask yourself. If you've done it in a way that's pleasing to Allah, the only question you can ask was it wise to have that conversation or not? Or did I do that because my ego wanted me to do that? That's the only question you can ask yourself if your behavior was acceptable. And I think that if you've spoken up in a respectful way, that you're being part of the solution to this crazy thinking that somehow respecting the elders means the elders don't have to respect the youngers, that they can have a disrespectful manner and get away with it. That's not okay. And if we want to really think about it from the perspective of being good Muslims and loving those people, don't we want them to go to Jannah? You know, if we really love someone, don't we really want to see them go to Jannah? So if they're being disrespectful to people, if their actual behavior is oppressive and they're oppressing others, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might forbid the fragrance of Jannah to them, right? So if we don't speak up, they don't, and they're never challenged in their thinking, they may continue on behaving like that till the day they die and then become accountable for it. So while they might have upset thinking around it, the fact that you've said something could be a stepping stone for them to thinking about it in a different way, or looking at themselves and reflecting on themselves whether or not they're behaving in the best way that's pleasing to Allah. Can I talk more about being okay with not having a resolution? Okay, so that's another good question. Let me pop this question down from up here and we'll pop this one up. Here we go. Pop it in the middle a bit more. There we are. Isn't this fun, moving things around the screen? So how can we be okay with not having a resolution? This is where understanding our separate realities comes in. So if we understand that everybody is experiencing their life through their own thought, we realize, I was trying to read and I was looking at I'm messaging and it had ing on it, and that's why I said I'm realizing, you know, when your eyes and your brain get muddled. So we come to realize that person's behavior is an indication of what's going on in their mind, it's not actually necessarily about me at all. And when we see that, it actually depersonalizes the attack, if it's an attack. And what we start to do, it becomes like, when you see that, it becomes like you have a raincoat on, and you know how the water just rolls off the raincoat? So their attack just rolls off you like the rain off the raincoat or off the umbrella or whatever. Because you don't take it personally or to heart anymore, because you see that it's something crazy going on in their thinking that has them thinking that for whatever reason it's okay to attack you in that moment. It's never okay to attack someone. You know, Islamically, if we want to behave as human beings, all being part of the solution of having one united ummah and one beautiful, humane world, we don't need to attack people. The solution is love, right? Attack comes from fear, which is the opposite of love. Hate isn't the opposite of love. Fear is the opposite of love. So when we see that it's their pain or it's their thinking or something that has led them to attack us, it doesn't sink into our heart. And we're able to stay neutral and rather than emotional. And we can actually even be part of the solution, because we can actually sometimes even see what's paining them, why they're hurting, and say or do something to support them in that moment that helps resolve for them whatever's going on for them. All right? If you don't have this understanding and you've been hurt, how can we be okay without a resolution? Well, I think the first thing to do is join Peaceful Hearts so you can learn this, because it's much easier if you understand what I understand, right? That's the first answer. The cheeky one. The second answer is what I'll teach you right now, is that thoughts are passing through us all the time, constantly. We have around like 70,000 thoughts a day. And we don't remember all of them. So realizing that whatever the hurtful thoughts are that we're experiencing, that when they pass, we won't feel the hurt anymore, that we'll be fine. So that we don't have to do anything. We don't need to go into battle with it. And then what tends to happen is, as our thinking starts to settle, inshallah, our thinking starts to be more about Allah. And we understand that, well, if it's never resolved before my eyes, because sometimes things are resolved, but it didn't happen, we didn't witness it, so we feel like something's still outstanding. We just don't know. But if something isn't resolved in this life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring about resolution in the hereafter. So one of the things that can often console me when someone has done something quite hurtful is, oh, well, there's some more good deeds for me, or some bad deeds exiting from me if they've run out of good deeds on the Day of Judgment. I might need those. Thank you. That could be actually something that might just be that last bit of good deeds or reduce of bad deeds that I need to cross that line into Jannah. So, alhamdulillah. You know, when we start to think about things that way, we feel some more peace. Like, in the remembrance of Allah, the hearts find rest. That isn't a saying that to take lightly, because the minute you start seeing it from the perspective of how Allah fits into the picture, your heart will feel at rest, as long as you're really seeing how it fits. So justice will always be served at some point. It will always get resolved at some point. But just like sometimes our du'as get answered in ways where we can't see them or we don't know what they look like, so does this justice. Sometimes we don't get to witness how that justice unfolds, but we must trust in Allah, you know, have the tawakkul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to let any injustice fall, just go unnoticed. You know, Allah knows everything. Nothing passes his eyes, ears, whatever, if you get what I mean, you know, subhanallah. So there's solace in that, you know, that leave it to Allah. Just leave it to Allah. Get on with your life. Because another key thing to understand is, for some people who are often hurting people, they don't even realize. They're so perhaps emotionally inept or so lost in confusion themselves that they don't even know that or realize or appreciate that their behavior is hurtful. So waiting for them to apologize or for them to correct it is only holding yourself back, because they've gone on with their life. They didn't even perhaps know there was a problem. And yet you're holding on to this angst and whatever in your heart, and you're not able to focus on prayer. You're not a nice person for everybody else because you're holding on to this, waiting for the resolution when that may never come. And so the only person that is being harmed now is yourself, and it's you who's harming yourself. That person's harm stopped. They're not continuing to harm you. But your constant thinking and expectation around how it needs to be resolved or how it should unfold is harming you, because you're holding on to it. And so you're not able to forgive. You know the saying, forgive and forget? It's not forgive and forget. It's just forgive. We don't forget, because there's some people, forgetting what they've done is not a sensible thing. As I said earlier, we don't stick our hand in the same snake hole twice, right? We need to remember there are some people that maybe it's not a good idea to trust them, that they've got some confusion going on that's leading them to do things that are not okay, right? So we don't forget, but we do forgive. And forgiving is about handing it over to Allah. It's like, I leave it to you, Allah. I'm going to, forgive the person. Obviously, there was something in their life that was going on for them that led them to behave in a way that was unacceptable. I leave it with you to sort out with them. I want to move on with my life. I need to move on with my life. And it is about us. Forgiveness is about us, freeing us from being held stuck in that angst. So just going to hopefully have answered that question. Bring up the next one. Shaz Said said, this is my first class that I'm attending. So much nur on your face, sister, while you help us. I feel at peace listening to you. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for sharing that. If you get peace from listening to what I say, Alhamdulillah. That's the best blessing ever. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for sharing these comments and these questions. I really love in these sessions to have engagement. So before I go, any of you who have not joined Peaceful Hearts yet, I know Nuria, who's here, has done it. Halima has done it. Amy, who's here, has done it. But anyone else who has not done Peaceful Hearts, I can assure you, you won't regret it. If you don't like it, I will refund it, so you can't regret it. It's a 10-week program that helps you have this understanding that I'm sharing with you, to be able to see things from this perspective, the way I'm sharing with you here. I'm not someone who's especially wise. I just don't have my thinking getting in the way of having access to wisdom. And that's all it is. And you can have this wisdom too, just through understanding the inside-out paradigm, which is what I teach from an Islamic perspective. So Islam is woven through it all. There's it fits beautifully with our deen, alhamdulillah. So if you want to have inner peace, you want to have fearless confidence, you want to have effortless patience. You know how they say patience is with the first strike of calamity? That is possible. I used to think it wasn't, but it is very possible. What else? Just to be resilient, to bounce back, to not be held back by all these challenges and tests that we have. Then please join Peaceful Hearts, heartsfindrest.com. just go and check it out anyway, inshallah. Just to let you know, this is Nuria's. Okay. Thank you. She's at work and couldn't make it. I'll be signing up to Peaceful Hearts, inshallah. Thank you. Thoroughly enjoyed this talk. You're most welcome, sis. You're so, now I understand your previous message. You're here on behalf of your mum because she's at work and couldn't attend. So, yeah, alhamdulillah. Nice to meet you, sis. It was good to have you here. So, I think that's it. Anyone got a takeaway you want to share? So Halima says, I'm going to add this up here so you can read it. Halima says, I can tell you ladies, you will love the peaceful class, inshallah, and it does change your life for the best, alhamdulillah. Halima was really struggling with feeling quite distressed a lot of the time, and she's a lot more relaxed, calm person these days, alhamdulillah. It's been wonderful to watch, you know, the change in Halima, alhamdulillah, especially with her relationship with her kids. She was finding parenting so hard and so frustrating, and now she's been absolutely loving lockdown with her kids. That says it all, right? When you love lockdown with your kids, then there's something right going on. Alhamdulillah. Any takeaways, any other questions before we go? This has been an amazing session, alhamdulillah. Well, if you think of something else, or if you're listening to the recording, make sure that you still type them, and I'll get back to you later on, inshallah. If you feel that there are other sisters who can benefit from these live sessions, invite them to the group. Invite people to join our We Are All Okay group, inshallah, because every week I'm going to do something special like this. If you've got topics you want me to cover, let me know. I'm always interested in covering the topics you want to hear about. If I don't hear from you, then I tend to go with what has been coming up as I've been coaching sisters during the week. What I see is seemingly the theme that's going on. So whatever it is I talk about, it's usually coming from the people around me and what their challenges are. So you're welcome to share with me and let me know what you would like to learn more about. Halima's saying, I really love the lockdown, mashallah. And I had the best Ramadan ever, subhanallah, alhamdulillah. I'm so pleased to hear that, Halima. May Allah accept it from you and accept it from all of us. So sisters, subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. See you next week at the same time for We Are All Okay Wednesday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Really benefited, alhamdulillah. Wa iyaki, my pleasure.